Yo, what's good, ladies and gentlemen? Hi, it's your boy, rather grown ass man, Ralph Anthony Garcia, also known as R4, the legal, the loyal, the regal, the royal, Ronin Ralph, your master of ceremonies. And today on Ralph Reads Raw, I present C Murders, or see red rums, death around the corner. I ain't. This has been a nice book so far. Very realistic shit here. I ain't. And now, before we begin, I'd like to do a couple of things. First, big shout to the folks that keep this channel afloat. Alasia Ross, Melchizedek, Within the Vision, Danielle Cunningham, Doreen Austin, Sherelle Pittman, Estanislava Cardona, Goosejack, Ice Age, 19XX, Just Being Kiki, Omar Battle, Desjuan Manuel, Sherelle, 5150, Pretty Ricky, 22, Desmond Thomas, Jay Bobo, Darielle Carrington, I've Been a Healer, Marcus Valentine, T Hubs, 415, Kyla Isla and the Isla family, BLE 007, Michael Woodford, my apologies, Pat Master, Mr. Light Monster, Anthony Leach, Calm, Nana James, Tama, Mr. Fulltime, Beverly Jones, Brian Latham, Mr. T, John Logic and Friends, and Demon Wolf 540. Big shout to all of y'all. Thank you for your constant contributions. All right. And speaking of which, speaking of contributions, this came in, and I gotta give a big shout to an old friend of mine. About 30 years I know the cat, Marlon Payne. My man Trauma, or Maldado, whatever he used to call himself, but I know him as family. And of course, I gotta debut his shirt that he made me, and it's all in here, in this awesome box. All right. This is what my man Marlon Payne made for me. Boom. Pull this out right now. Redeem the bow. All right then. Cool. Here we go. Huh? Yo, poppin'. Rhythm Pezel. Word. I. That's me. Yo, Pete. That's hot. That's dope right there. All right. What up, everybody? It's your boy, rather phone as man, Rhythm Pizzelle. That was my old, my old MC name. Yo, wow. Look at that right there. Look at that right there. Made by the one and only Marlon Payne. Yeah, I think he did a damn good job on this one. Big shout to you, my guy. You are thoroughly appreciated. And boy, do I value our 30 years of friendship. God bless you. Another thing that came in the mail in this big old awesome box is this little merch test. Right? And I think they did an awesome job on it. Alright? Look at that right there. You heard me? Nice long sleeve. This is what I was hoping to get folks to pay $50 for. You know, there you have that. But most of all, we're a little early when it comes to this. This is supposed to commemorate my 10,000th subscriber. Is that right? 10,000? 10,000. Okay. But I'm still around 9,500. So, gotta get 500 more people to celebrate this situation here. But you know what? I'm about to do it right now. Check this out, y'all. Look at this. How is that? How dope is this? Wow. Digging it? I'm digging it. Because, you know, this is also to commemorate my Yanks, my Bronx Bombers. Man, they are they are monsters this year, and I would love to commemorate that. Win or lose, Yankee fan for life. I was born watching the Yankees. All right, so there you go. Check it out, y'all. This is to commemorate my 10,000th and my 10,000th. All right, let's get those subscribers to tune in. And yo, this is pretty dope. I can't lie. So this is gonna commemorate a lot of hard work I've done. And yeah, my birthday coming up, so there's that, you know. So yeah, man, just check it out, man. This is a beautiful piece of work. All right, I'm telling y'all. It's been somewhat like Christmas with all these gifts. Boom. Coming soon. Alright. Thought I'd show those off before I begin the show. And of course, pal, congratulations. All-Star Fania. Hello and welcome, darling. I see you. Welcome aboard. All right then, let's go. We're on a mission. All the way to heaven, 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 all the way to heaven. Now, let's go. Let's go right now, all right? Everything's ready. Everything's set. It's time to go. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. As Daquan stepped out of Crocker, 1991, sorry, I was supposed to do that. 1991, as Daquan stepped out of Crocker Elementary, he could just feel Grandma Mama's strap on his ass. She stood beside him, but he was scared to look at her. This had been the third time in as many months that he had been suspended from school. He was supposed to be expelled by now, but Grandma Mama knew the principal, Mr. Dupree. She had practically raised him up as a child. Their families had gone to the same church for years, so on the strength of that, he asked her to come in for a meeting. Mama Watson, Daquan is uncontrollable, he told her. It's like he doesn't care. Every time I turn around, he's in my office, disrespecting teachers, bullying other students, and fighting. If it wasn't for the fact that I knew you, I'd wash my hands of the whole situation, just send him over to AD Cross School and be done with it. Grandma Mama looked at Daquan, who had his head down. All she could think of was, what would she whoop him with? Daquan, ma'am, look at me, child. Daquan looked up. Is this what you want? To be sent away to reform school? No, ma'am, he answered. Then what are you going to do? She asked. He shrugged. Be good, he answered. The principal leaned forward and spoke over tented hands. He hated to see so many young black faces heading down a road he knew all too well. Both of his sons were locked up, one for murder, the other for armed robbery. Neither was even 21. Neither was even 21. He sighed. He sighed. Quan, you say that every time. Listen, I know you can do it. I see your grades. I see what you are capable of. You have the ability. You have the ability, son. Why the... He had to catch himself. Why won't you use them? But I didn't start it this time. The principal held up his hand. I'm not talking about this time or who did what. I'm talking about you. When are you going to see? He asked, then sighed deeply. I'm sorry, Mama Watson, but I'm going to have to suspend Daquan for 3 days. And if he's in my office one more time, I'll expel him for the rest of the year. Grandma Mama nodded solemnly. I understand. She positioned her cane to support her weight as she stood up. Come on, boy. Daquan followed her out, feeling like a sheep going to slaughter. You hungry? Grandma Mama asked as they got off the bus, much to Daquan's surprise. Well, I am. Well, I am, she continued, answering her own question. We going to Williams. Williams Soul Food was a spot near Williams Soul Food was a spot near the Calliope or Calliope. Williams Soul Food was a spot near the Williams Soul Food was a spot near the Calliope, or as the hood say, Calliope, that served the best cooking this side of grandmother's kitchen. Grandma Mama loved their gizzards, and Daquan did too, but he didn't expect to be fed so good after he'd been so bad. The two sat in the booth, looking out at the passing cars while they waited on their order. I better get Melissa something to eat because I ain't doing no cooking today, she said, more to herself than to Daquan. Daquan kept his eyes on the salt shaker because he was too scared to look at her. This wasn't the way he was used to things going. Usually, they rode home in silence whenever she had to go to his school. The only words, whenever she had to go to his school. The only words she spoke were, "Go get my belt. once they got home. Then right before she lashed him, she'd say, "Lord, please don't let me kill this child." Then she beat him damn near to it. He could handle that, but sitting in Williams eating gizzards had him scared to death because he didn't know what was coming. "Daquan, what do you think I should do?" she asked as the waitress brought them their order. "Excuse me, sweetie, can I get a chicken dinner to go, please?" "Thank you," she told the waitress, then returned to her question. "Well?" Daquan looked at the golden brown morsels, stomach growling, but too scared to eat or speak. Train. "I punish you, I whoop you, talk to you, keep you in the house, but none of it seems to work. So what should I do?" He looked up at her. "I'm sorry, Mama, but I swear I ain't start this time. The boy kept looking at me all crazy cause he think I jumped on his cousin at the rec center." He explained. He explained. "Did you?" She probed. He dropped his head. "Yes'm." Grandma Mama just shook her head. "Boy, don't you know that these people is crazy? You can't keep going around jumping on folks. What if one of them got a gun? Then what? You heard about Junior Davis? He beat up with some boy. Then the boy came back and shot him dead. Ain't you scared of stuff like that?" Daquan picked over his gizzards and mumbled, "No, ma'am." "You ain't, huh? That's your problem. You ain't scared. Got no good sense. And I can't beat that into you. And I can't beat them streets out of you either." She reached in her purse and pulled out a small fold of money. Daquan recognized it immediately because it was his. "Now, where do a 12-year-old child get $150 from?" She questioned. His mind linked and unlinked till he latched on to a lie. "Me and Nut Mode, hush your mouth," Grandma Mama hissed from behind clenched teeth. Grandma Mama hissed from behind clenched teeth. Only in thing I can't stomach is a lie. Now you tell me the truth, or so help me God. It'll be the last lie you tell. Now, where did it come from? Did you steal it?" "No, ma'am," he answered, shook. "Did you rob somebody?" We, I, We, we, Daquan, Daquan stuttered, ashamed to tell her the truth. We sold some car radios. Grandma Mama dropped her fork. Lord have mercy, child. You breaking in people's cars? Don't you know them folks will kill you? She looked at her grandson, seeing him slipping further and further away from everything she had ever taught him, and she didn't know what to do. She had already put Jerome out for selling drugs, and she tried to get Daryl to write to Daquan, but he had his own issues that 7 years in the cage had created. Grandma Mama took a deep breath, stilled her emotions, and told him, well, if you're grown enough to take your life in your own hands, you're old enough to be on your own. And that's exactly where you're going to be if I find any more money in my house, or if you get put out of school. Just once more, you hear me? Just once more, you hear me? Yes, Daquan replied, not knowing if he should be happy he wouldn't get a whooping, or sad because he could end up homeless. Now, you may as well eat your food because you sure enough paying for it, she informed him as she stuck his money back in her purse. By the time Daquan got home, everyone was out of school and Nut was waiting for him. He and Nut had become friends over the years, especially since Pepper and Jerome hung so tight. Hello, Mama Watson, Nut greeted her respectfully as Daquan helped her up the front steps. Mm-hmm, she toned in a disapproving manner. Grandma Mama, I'll be in a minute, Daquan informed her. Just remember what I said, Daquan, she reminded him, then turned and entered the house. As soon as she was inside, Nut asked, What's up? You on punishment or what? Nut knew how Grandma Mama carried it. Nah, man, Daquan answered, but she found my money. All of it? Nut said in disbelief. What'd she do, bruh? Daquan sat on the steps. She kept it. Nut sat down next to him. Damn, man, how you gonna buy them Jordans now? Easy. Get me some more. Black Jimmy said he need a kicker box and an amp. He told Nut. Let's go to the rack. As they walked, Daquan told Nut. She says she'll kick me out. Who? Mama Watson? Daquan nodded. What you gonna do? Daquan looked at him. Be more careful, you heard me? Rosenwald Recreation Center on Earhart Street was the place to be for all ages of youth. The younger kids could play on the playground or draw with finger paints, while the older kids could play basketball, cards, lift weights, or just plain hang out like most of them did. The parking lot was always packed, cars with booming systems, girls trying to outshine one another, guys trying to look cool, tough, or a little bit of both. Everyone from uptown knew about Rosenwald Gym. Everyone from uptown knew about Rosenwald Gym in the CP3. As Daquan and Nut, as Daquan and Nut, as Daquan and Nut crossed the street to the wreck, they heard, "Hey, Quan!" And out of the crowd came DJ. DJ was a year younger, but bigger than both of them, side by side in width. He came from a big bone family, and at the rate he was going, he'd easily be linebacker size by the time he was 18, which was fine with him because he ate, drank, and slept football. "What's happening?" He greeted them, shaking their hands. "I heard you had a fight with Ray Ray today." "I beat Ray Ray ass today, if you call that a fight," Daquan joked as he unwrapped a great Jolly Rancher. "Them boys from the Parkway talking a lot of junk. Big boys too," DJ warned him. For a big kid, DJ didn't like to fight, but when he did, he was like a young bull. It just took a lot to get him started. "Forget them foes," Nut replied. Let them come around here. They want to. Let them come around here. They want to. Let them come around here. They want to. The three of them walked into the wreck parking lot, surrounded by multiple car systems playing the Ghetto Boys, mine playing tricks on me. Daquan spotted Black Jimmy leaning against his black Nissan Maxima, talking to two girls. Daquan always liked Jimmy because he was smooth like Big Daddy Kane. He was half Geechee, which gave him his dark skin tone, and half Creole, which gave him curly hair and long eyelashes that made the girls go crazy for him. Jimmy got his money from fighting and raising dogs, and he loved to gamble. He was also known for messing around with roots and potions real heavy. Daquan walked over to Jimmy and said, "What up, Waldy? You still need that?" Black Jimmy liked young Daquan because he was about his business. He told the girls he'd see them later, then turned to Daquan. "What up, little daddy? What you got for me?" "Nothing yet. That's why I'm asking you if you still about it." Daquan replied. Jimmy smiled. "I'm about it, Wody. I told you I needed it, didn't I? Now how much you charging?" "200. But if you give me 100 right now, I'll only charge you 50 when I get the stuff," Daquan proposed. 100 now, huh? You try to hustle Black, huh? "Well, I'ma get the kicker," Black Jimmy asked. Folding his arms over his chest. "Nah, I'll just need to handle something right quick. I'll have that to you in a few days, you heard me?" Black Jimmy went in his pocket, peeled off a $100 bill, and handed it to Daquan. "I respect your hustle, little Wody. Just make sure you got the word to match. Don't let me have to send old Johnny at you." Daquan took the money. Like, "I got you, Wody." He walked away to catch up with Nut and DJ by the ball court, but not watching where he was going, he bumped into Desiree. "Oh, hey, Quan," the little young girl flirted as if it was an accident. like she hadn't watched him while he was talking to Jimmy, then deliberately made sure she crossed his path. "Oh, what up? Oh, what's up?" he answered, backing away a step or two. "Is that for me?" she asked, looking at the money in his hand. He sucked his teeth and put it in. He sucked his teeth and put it in his pocket. One second. Train. "Girl, won't you go head somewhere?" he huffed and brushed past her. It wasn't that Desiree was ugly. She was a cute little she was a cute little red bone whose birthday was on the same day as his. Ever since they started grade school, she always had a crush on Daquan, and he always had brushed her off. Back then, he wasn't into girls. And now he was into money. And now he was into money. Nut and DJ watched Daquan approach. Nut and DJ watched Daquan approach, and DJ commented, "That Desiree shows pity, man. How come you don't ever talk to her, Quan?" "Man, you talk to her," he spat. He spat. I got more I got more I got more important things. I got more important things to worry about. "What Jimmy say?" Nut asked, changing the subject. "He bought it. I got 100 from him now. 50 when we get the kicker. Let's go get some change." The three of them walked around the back of the rec building. The three of them walked around the back of the rec building where they knew there'd be a dice game going on. When they rounded the corner, the first person they saw was Jerome serving a fiend. Jerome had gotten in the crack game and was slanging hard, trying to come up. Gone was his boombox, only to be replaced by a Cadillac Eldorado with a banging system. His jewels and clothes let the world know he was the man to see. "What's happening, little cuz?" Jerome grinned, still gold grill glistening. "What you doing back here?" "I need some change," Daquan boasted. Extending the $100 bill to Jerome. He still looked up to Jerome, even though he didn't see him as much these days. Jerome looked at the bill. "Y'all still breaking in folks' shit? What'd I tell you about that, little cuz? I told you, if you need money, come see me." Daquan waved him off. It ain't but them white boys round it ain't but them white boys around St. Charles Street. Shit. That's the worst. Shit. That's the worst. Let them crackers catch you up there. Fuck around and lick y'all little asses. Jerome handed them back 5 20s. "I hear about you selling some shit to these niggas, and I hear about you selling some shit to these niggas. I'ma beat your ass, you heard me?" Daquan pocketed the money in silence. He wanted to say something slick, but he knew better. Jerome would definitely make good on his threat. But that wasn't going to stop Daquan. The way he saw it, Jerome had his hustle, and he had his own. That night, Nut and Daquan took the bus over to Algiers, the section of New Orleans where the white boys showed off their cars and cruised the strip of Manhattan where the Palace Theater was located. Daquan thought it was funny, wow, how many white boys bumped rap music in the stereos but didn't like blacks. A point of sociology he was too young to grasp. They got off the bus and made their way along the street, keeping their eyes peeled for the police. This was Sheriff Harry Lee's section of New Orleans, where the whites lived and played. So being a blackface after dark was a crime in and of itself. But Daquan and Nut knew the area well. It was where they got most of their merchandise from. But being young, they didn't realize that they had made the area hot. They were moving through a small apartment complex when they spotted the lick. "Look ahead," Nut said, peering through the window of a Nissan Sentra. Large speakers were sitting up in the rear deck of the car. "Nah," Daquan rejected. "He wanted a kicker box, man." "How you know ain't no kicker in the trunk?" Daquan didn't answer. Something about the night. Daquan didn't answer. Something about the night didn't feel right, but he tried to convince himself. It was just nerves. Truth was, he was still shaken by the dream he had the night before. He dreamed of a large church full of familiar faces, family and friends. Even Darryl was there with Macy. Grandma Mama was the only one crying. Sherelle Pittman upgraded membership to band episodes. Mwah. Thank you, young lady. You are fully appreciated. Yeah, man. Thanks. Thank you. Grandma Mama was the only one crying, but no one else seemed to notice. They were all chatting and laughing, oblivious to the old woman's pain. Daquan rushed over to Grandma Mama and called out, "Mama, what's wrong? Are you hurt?" But she didn't even acknowledge his presence. "Mama, it's me. Daquan, Mama, what's wrong?" Still no response. Just then, the piano player began to play a slow, sad waltz that drew his attention to the coffin in the front of the church. He crossed the room to it, only to find the lid closed. He tried to lift it, but a small feminine hand held it closed. He looked up to see that the hand belonged to Diana. "Don't open it," she warned. "I want to see it," he whined. "I want to see it," he whined. "No, don't open it," She repeated. She repeated. But his curiosity got the best of him. He opened the casket. He opened the casket lid, admiring the thick red satin that lined the interior. His eyes traced the fabric of the suit from the pants to the small black hands folded across the body's midsection. But what he saw next made him gasp and stumble back. The face in the coffin was his own. The hands folded in their final resting place were his hands. It was his own funeral. Mama? No! I am not dead! Huh? The words got caught in his throat because the eyes of his casket itself popped open at the sound of his own voice. The corpse sat up at the waist until they were both eye level and face to face. He awoke breathless and in a cold sweat. Quan, man, you hear me? Quan, man, you hear me? Nut whispered harshly from a few cars down. Let's get this one. Daquan blinked out of the zone he had fallen into, looked around, then approached Nut, standing beside a Suzuki Samurai SUV. Look, Nut urged. The Suzuki was laced with a system that, even in silence, just looked loud. The four-speaker kicker box took up almost the whole trunk space on a slant from tweeters to 12s. The Alpine pullout sat tantalizingly near. All they had to do was cut through the vinyl top, and they were in. We can't carry that, Daquan surmised, referring to the kicker. He had a smaller two-speaker version in mind. There was no way they would be able to move that. Then we'll take the car, Nut smirked devilishly. I told you I can hotwire, he reminded Daquan. Nigga, you can't drive, Daquan accused. Damn lie, I can't drive. Let's get this motherfucker in, let's go. Let's get this shit and go, Nut urged him, already slicing through the top with his orange box cutter. He crawled in through the slitted opening, and Daquan crawled in behind him. Nigga, you better know what the fuck you're doing, Daquan hissed. Just chill, Nut assured him as he reached under the dashboard, searching for the ignition wires. Man, I can't wait till I pull up in the projects with this, Nut remarked. Man, we ain't taking this shit home. We ain't taking this shit home. We're gonna take it somewhere, get the system, and dump it, Daquan replied, killing Nut's stunt dream. All of a sudden, the car started up, which made Daquan's heart jump for joy. But a split second later, a high-pitched wail filled the car. The alarm hadn't tripped until then because they hadn't opened any doors to get in. But now that the car was crunk and it hadn't been disarmed, the siren screamed like a soprano being attacked by a rapist. What the fuck? Daquan panicked. Nut froze up, not knowing what to do. Daquan thought about getting out, but when he heard, "Hey, you!" from a man across the parking lot, he punched Nut hard in the shoulder. Motherfucker, drive! The jolt of the blow brought Nut back to reality. He threw the stick shift into first gear, and the Suzuki lurched forward. Although Nut wasn't experienced with a stick, he shifted into second gear at the proper time, keeping the gears in motion and avoiding the risk of getting cut off. They raced out of the parking lot, narrowly missing an oncoming car. "Watch out, Nut! Watch out, Nut! You're gonna kill us in here!" Daquan yelled angrily. I got it!" Nut stammered, finally realizing that he had bitten off than he could chew. The way Nut swerved made a passing police car U-turn and throw on the lights and siren, which made Nut's panic even worse. He tried to make a left at the intersection, but got sideswiped, causing the Suzuki to careen and fishtail. Before they knew it, Nut rear-ended a parked car. The force of the blow and the intensity of its anxiety caused him to black out at the wheel. Daquan, however, was out the door as soon as his body absorbed the impact. He was a little disoriented, but his feet were in motion to escape. The police cruiser circled around the Suzuki and pulled halfway up the curb. Then an overweight white cop got out the passenger side and chased Daquan. Daquan tried to cut through a backyard, but when he got ready to leap the fence, he was met by two red eyes and a deep-throated growl. An oversized Rottweiler leapt up against the fence, daring him to jump in. Daquan skidded to a stop and turned, hoping he had enough time to cut along the side of the next house. But he was met with, "Freeze, boy! You move and I'll shoot!" The big fat cop snarled. His police-issued .38 locked and loaded. All Daquan could do was raise his hands in surrender. "Miss Watson? Is this Miss Gladys Watson?" The authoritative male voice inquired. Wait, 1 second. Yo. Miss Watson? Is this Miss Gladys Watson? The authoritative male voice inquired over the telephone. Grandma Mama propped herself up on her elbow and glanced at the clock by her bed. It was 11:45 p.m. Deep down in her motherly instinct, she knew the call was about Daquan, so she prayed for the best and prepared herself for the worst. "Yes, this is Miss Watson," she replied, now fully awake. "This is Detective Miller of the New Orleans Police Department, and I have a..." She heard the sound of the rustling paper. Daquan Watson in custody. Are you his legal guardian? She breathed a deep, but silent sigh of relief. Yes, I am." "Well, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm sorry to bother you this late, he said. His tone was anything but remorseful. His tone, anything but remorseful. But he was arrested in a stolen vehicle after he attempted to elude police. After he attempted to elude police. No response. Miss Watson. I'm him, she replied. He's been charged with possession of a stolen vehicle, attempting to elude capture, and resisting arrest. Once his processing is completed, you can pick him up. And if I don't? She asked, breaking her own heart with every word, breaking her own heart with every word. If you don't, then he'll remain in custody until he goes before the judge, the detective informed her. The detective informed her. He was used to black parents refusing to take back their delinquent children. I don't blame you. His racism chuckled inside. His racism chuckled inside. Okay, was all she could get out before her voice cracked, and she hung up the phone. Grandma Mama wanted with all her heart to go and get her baby, but she knew if she bailed him out this time, Daquan would feel like whatever he did, she'd come and get him out of it. But life wasn't like that. And if he was ever going to learn that lesson, now would be the time. Now was the time. As she rolled over to go to sleep, tears rolled down her cheek to form a salty stain on her pillow. She said a prayer for her child. One moment. Sheesh. Are you scared? No. Silence. Then why are you shaking? Diana asked. 'Cause I'm cold, Daquan lied. The truth was, he was scared. Not of being in a detention center or of what the police would do to him, but scared of being alone. He shook from the coldness of solitude. He knew Grandma Mama loved him, but he wasn't surprised when the detective smugly informed Daquan smugly informed Daquan that no one was coming for him. Nut had left almost immediately. His mother had come as soon as she got the call and whooped his ass all the way out of the police station, much to the officers' amusement. Much to the officers' amusement. Shit. Daquan would take a whooping over this any day. The steel and hollow concreteness of his cell made The steel and hollow concreteness of his cell made him long for the familiar sting. The steel and hollow concreteness of his cell made him long for the familiar sting of Grandma Mama's heavy leather belt. But she had already warned him about the consequences of his actions. If you're grown enough to take your life in your own hands, you're old enough to be on your own, he remembered her saying. And the memory made him curl up in the ball on his bunk, instinctually mimicking the position of a fetus in the warmth of its mother's womb. His only umbilical life was the presence. Of his dead sister. I love you, she told him. I love you too, he replied, not seeing her pigtails, but hearing her voice as if she was right in his ear. And I promise I'll never leave you. I promise. Wasn't I there when you were scared of the dark? Yeah. And when Daddy stopped writing you? He nodded his head. I'll always be here with you, Daquan. I promise. The words were clear and comforting. And in his heart, he could feel his hand embraced by his sisters. Until he fell asleep. All this damn noise. Sheesh, you think the madness would end early in the day. You know, like the madness of early in the day, it just would stop around now. But no, ever, never, forever. Let me bust this out. Chapter 5. Daquan and Nut were each sentenced to 12 months in Scotland Correctional Institute for Youth. Although they were first offenders, they were given the max because the car they stole belonged to the nephew of a wealthy Masonic businessman with friends in the court system. Daquan leaned his head against the steel-grated window of the prison bus as it bumped along the highway heading for Scottsdale, Louisiana. Scottsdale, Louisiana. Nut sat beside him, with his grill scrunched up in a screw face, trying to look tougher than the fear inside will let him be. I'm telling you, Wody, Nuss said to Daquan, loud enough for the other 12 juveniles on the bus to hear. A nigga bet not look at me wrong, 'cause I don't give a fuck about killing a motherfucker. Yeah, I hear you, Daquan replied in a flat monotone. He never even took his head away from the window and the sight of the passing cars. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Nut asked. He expected Daquan to act just as tough. You sick or something? You ain't got nothing to worry about, nigga. We from the CP3. Daquan closed his eyes. He didn't know what to expect, but he was ready for whatever. He had heard a lot about Scott. He had heard a lot about Scotland. They called it Baby Angola, a sort of stepson to the largest and most feared adult prison in Louisiana. When they pulled up to the double barbed wire fence of the prison, it looked like a mini penitentiary with a billboard that read Scotland. Looking at the compound for the first time, Daquan couldn't help the eerie feeling that his life from this day on would never be the same. He could tell that everyone on the bus felt the same way, because as the huge barbed wire fence slid back to admit the bus, all conversation stopped. 1 second, y'all. Boy, was that needed. These streets won't shut up, will they? Looking at the compound for the first time, Daquan couldn't help. Once those gates closed, they wouldn't open until each boy's sentence was over. Whatever happened while they were inside those gates, they will just have to deal with. All right, everybody! The bellowed the pot-bellied redneck corrections officer, cradling a pump shotgun in his arms. They all stood up and shuffled off the bus the best they could, making sure the heavy leg shackles they wore didn't get tangled up and trip them. One by one, they stepped out into the hot Louisiana sun, forming a single file line. The redneck CO inspected the line, shoving a few guys, including Nut, over a few inches until the line was up to his standards. What? What did you say, boy? The redneck hissed at Nut because he heard Nut suck his teeth after he shoved him. You got a problem, boy? Nah, Nut replied, finding the urge to spit in the cracker's face. Then move, the CO replied. He marched them through the doors of intake into a large room. The walls were old, with peeling sky blue paint, revealing the cold gray of the reinforced steel walls. They were made to line up side by side while the COs unshackled them. A tall, burly black man walked in wearing short, wearing sergeant stripes. Walked in wearing sergeant stripes. Even though he was one of the police, he was a welcome face, especially since the other 6 COs around them were all white. But as soon as he opened his mouth, he proved to be a true house nigger. Look at you, he spat, walking along the row of boys. Every one of you disgust me. Every one of you disgust me. I'm glad you're here instead of on the streets, molesting the good folk of Louisiana. He stuck his chest out as if he was proud of locking up little black boys. Only two of the new inmates were white, and Daquan could see that he wasn't talking to them. Where are you from? The sarge asked one of the boys. New Orleans, the Magnolia Projects, he answered proudly. Yeah? You know where I'm from? The sergeant replied, getting up in the same boy's face. The boy shook his head silently. A town called Fresh Off Your Ass, and your face is making me homesick. All you gotta do is breathe wrong in here, and I can make it so you don't have that luxury no more. He stepped back to address the whole line. The state sent you here to be reformed. Well, I know better. I know you ain't shit and ain't gonna be shit. So I'm just gonna make you suffer for it. I'm gonna make you suffer so bad, and I want you to cry. I want you to call on your sorry ass mammies, because they can't help you. Nobody can, because I run this. You hear? I'll run it. You will do what I say. When I say sit, you squat. When I say shit, you grunt. When I say jump, if it ain't high enough, I got a whole mess of good old boys to tell you, get airborne, he said with a chuckle, referring to the Ku Klux Klan of COs behind him. Daquan tensed with anger, eyeing the sarge until he recognized the look and came over to him. What's your name, boy? He questioned. Daquan Watson. Daquan Watson, huh? You think you're tough, Daquan? The sergeant asked, purposely pronouncing his name. The sergeant asked. No, Daquan replied, and my mama ain't sorry either. He didn't say it in a challenging way. He simply stated his position. She had your sorry black ass, didn't she? The sergeant taunted. The sarge taunted. The sarge taunted. Daquan locked gazes with him, and the sarge chuckled. You think you tough? I'ma have fun making you cry. I'ma have fun making you cry. especially with some of them monkeys on the unit, have you back there running around and drag. The rednecks laughed, but Daquan's mind locked on the image of the Sarge, on the image of the Sarge, bruised and bloody in a dark alley, begging for his life. All right, strip these pieces of shit and get them dressed out, the Sarge ordered as he left. They were taken further back into a damp-smelling room with a line of shower heads and a tiled floor, and told to strip off all their street clothes. Every last stitch of freedom was peeled away, layer by layer, until the boy stood bare before the eyes of the system. Until the boy stood bare before the eyes of the system. Their personal belongings were boxed and filed away, pending release, which some would never see, while their bodies were subjected to dehumanizing scrutiny. Dehumanizing scrutiny. Bend over, the CEOs yelled with... Bend over, the CEOs yelled with glee. Spread your cheeks, squat, cough. Many of these young boys have been through this process before, but for those like Daquan, it was the first time, and it left a scar that cut deep through their emotions. A scar that, if left to fester, could become bitterness, and the worst kind of a heart, and the worst kind of heart is a young, bitter one, After the search, they were all given blue shirts. They were all given blue shirts and blue pants. The blue shirts indicated that they were in processing and would be for the next 4 weeks. Then they would be taken to general population and given red shirts, which to many of the hardened inmates meant fresh meat, especially the white boys. In prison, where white inmates were the minority, racism reversed itself, and it was the whites who were... One second. And it was the whites who were at the bottom of the totem pole. They were the first victims of abuse, robbery, extortion, even rape and sodomy. That became clear. And even rape. That became clear to Daquan once their group was settled in a cluster of cells called the processing pod. Let me get that chicken, one of the black guys told the white boy when dinner was served. He snatched the fried bird out of his styrofoam tray as soon as the CO left with the food cart. The freckled-faced white boy didn't say a word, but his growling stomach cried out. Although he was rather big for 13, his heart wasn't as big. His friend, however, a smaller boy with shady blonde hair, did protest when the same dude took his chicken. Hey, give me that back, he squealed and stood up. The black dude wasted no time in smacking fire out of the white boy's face. But to his credit, the smaller white boy fired right back. His circumstance was just the opposite of his bigger friend. He was small and scrawny with a big heart. It just wasn't big enough to keep the black dude from beating his ass. God damn. It just wasn't big enough. It just wasn't big enough to keep the black dude from beating his ass unmercifully until they heard the keys of a CO coming jangling down the hall. They broke up the fight and scurried to their bunks. Daquan just knew the white boy would tell the guard, but he didn't. The scrawny blonde had been through this before, so he knew snitching was a no-no and a one-way ticket to the infirmary. Daquan sat on his bunk next to Nut and watched the people around him. They ate greedily from the small trays on their laps, even daring, eyes darting around out of fear, or like predators looking for victims. He knew in his heart that he would never allow himself to be a victim, but he had enough humanity left in him to pray he'd never become a predator either. Good day to everyone, Sherelle Pittman says. Good day. He found his thoughts drifting towards home. Dear Grandma, Mama, how you doing? I am fine. Thank you for the money. How is Aunt Melissa? How is Aunt Melissa? Have you seen Jerome? Tell him I'm in school and doing well, especially in English class. I hate math though. You asked me what I've learned in here in your last letter. God damn it. You asked me what I've learned in here in your last letter. I learned a lot about myself and why I'm here. When I get out, I'm gonna do better. And I wanna go to college. Maybe Grambling State like Melissa did. I don't wanna get in trouble no more or go to jail. They feed you nasty food and the police talk down on you when they try to tell you to do stuff. When they tell you to do stuff. I'm not coming back. Yes, I got the letters from Daddy and I will write them back. I've just been busy with school and my pod duties, but I will. Tell everybody that I love them. Love, Daquan. P.S. When are you going to visit me? Daquan put his pen down and stretched his arms over his head. In the background, the TV echoed through the dorm. Damn it. Noise everywhere. One second. Oh, come on. Daquan put his pen down and stretched his arms over his head. In the background, the TV echoed through the dorm while voices chittered and chatted at alternating decibels. Young Daquan has seen a lot in his short time in detention. He had only been on the yard a month, and already his mind frame had aged and hardened. He was trapped in cages with savages that resembled humans, but acted like beasts. On the wall over his head, someone had scribbled a short poem. The jungle creed is the strong must feed on any prey he can. I sat at the feast and was branded a beast before I ever became a man. All around him, he saw the reality of those words. Damn sirens. 1 second. Come on, shut up. He saw the reality of those words. He has seen cats get stabbed within an inch of their lives over card games. He's seen white boys molested and even raped by older boys, some white themselves. And he had witnessed the brutality of the racist COs against all kinds of inmates. For a 12-year-old child to see such for a 12-year-old child to see such atrocity for a 12-year-old child to see such atrocities, there was no way he could remain a child. There was no way he could remain a child. So Daquan grew up quickly in the short space of a month. He even started smoking cigarettes. It wasn't because of peer pressure. It wasn't because of peer pressure. It was simply a result of doing time. To do a bid, you need a vice, a hobby, or a religion. Since he was young, he chose a vice, and that vice was nicotine. Nut, on the other hand, chose weed. He tried to get Daquan to smoke with him, but Daquan still remembered his grandma's words about the evils of drugs and clung to them. Every day, Nut would come through, eyes bloodshot red and half closed. "What up, Wody?" He'd greet Daquan, then add, "Come on, nigga. I got the charm. I got that charm." Today was no different, except Nut wasn't high when he sat down next to Daquan. "What's happening, Dick? What's happening, Quan? You going to chow?" Nut asked. Daquan folded up his letter and placed it under his pillow. "Nah, I'm tired as a motherfucker, bruh. Wake me up when the movie come on." "Fuck that, Wody. Let's go out on the yard and kick it with the homies. Sleep is for lockdown," Nut replied, giving him his favorite phrase. Nut did time running. He had to have his hand in everything. "All right, man, 10 minutes, then I'm gone," Daquan stated, standing up from his bunk, and Nut followed him out the door. Once they made it outside, it was easy to spot the inmates. It was easy to spot the inmates from New Orleans. It's not as bad at night, though, I gotta admit. Once they made it outside, it was easy to spot the inmates from New Orleans because everyone had their own corner of the yard. Smaller cities like Monroe and Alexandria had a mixture of different cats, but everyone else stuck to their set. Shreveport and New Orleans was always beefing. Shreveport had the grassy area behind the horseshoe pit. Baton Rouge stayed near the weight pile, and the Broadbridge niggas held down the fence on the far side of the yard. New Orleans kept the basketball court because the best ballers came out of the NO. "What up, little Wodies?" Nate, an older boy of 16, said to Nut and Daquan, then shook their hands. Nate was in for a double homicide. He had two life sentences. He had two life sentences. He was just waiting to turn 17 so he could be sent to Hunt's Correctional Center for processing, then to Angola Penitentiary, commonly known as the Farm. Nate was something of a legend and a good nigga besides, so everyone looked up to him. "Quan, you tell Jerome what I said?" Nate asked, lighting up cool. "Yeah, I told him in my last letter." Yeah. Yeah, I told him in my Yeah, I told him in my last letter. I wrote him through my grandma, Daquan replied, pulling out a cigarette of his own and lighting it with Nate's. Nate nodded as he looked at the full court game going on. A tall, lanky, brown-skinned cat from the Calio, who everyone called C, who everybody called C, had just dunked, and the CP3 was going crazy. Damn, C nice, Nate exclaimed. Motherfucker should be in college some goddamn where instead of wasting his life in here. Nate shook his head, then looked at Nut. What up with you, little Nut? You got some of that killer? Nah, Nate. I'm broke, man. Nut shrugged. You broke? Nut echoed. So how you figure I'm paying D-Lo over there? What I tell you about fucking with them Shreveport? What I tell you about fucking with them Shreveport motherfuckers? They already told me you owe them. Nut glanced over in Shreveport's direction and saw D-Lo eyeing him hard. Man, fuck D-Lo. He a buster. Why ain't tell you and ain't come to me? Nut questioned. Nate just shook his head. It's dumbass niggas like you that get niggas jammed up, playboy, Nate replied. D-Lo know, if he don't do something to you, he got problems. We Calio. What I'm telling you is, you ain't gonna be no problem for me if you don't cut this bullshit out, you heard me? Nut was already vexed, and Daquan could see it. The only reason Nut wasn't flipping on Nate was because he looked up to him too. He was just upset that a cat he considered pussy was the reason Nate was checking him. Nate dunked his cigarette aside, then jerked his head like, come on with me. Nut and Daquan followed Nate down the short, grassy slope the court sat on and waved D-Lo over. D-Lo and a fat cat called Chubbs met them halfway. D-Lo and a fat cat called Chubbs met them halfway. Yo, how much nut supposed to owe you? Nate asked D-Lo. $40 was his chin-up reply. Nut sucked his teeth. I don't owe you no 40, bruh. I ain't get but 3 bags. Nut spat. The other 10, interest. 3 for 4 back. D-Lo eyed Nut. Nate looked at Nut and made a quick decision. All right, look, I'm gonna give you 20, because ain't no need for this shit to escalate over no motherfucking get high. Nate said. He looked at D-Lo. Take this 20 now, and he'll get you the rest next week. Cool? D-Lo looked at Nut, then at Nate. He knew Nate was a stand-up nigga, so he figured it was best to take what he offered, since Nate was known for putting in work. For you, Nate, I'll take it, D-Lo answered. For Nate, Nut exploded. You better be glad you ain't getting that bitch. You better be glad you're getting that, bitch-ass nigga. Nigga, fuck you, Chubbs bought back. He and Nut were the same age, and he didn't like Nut anyway. Before Nate could regain order, Nut caught D-Lo with a vicious right hook that had the lanky youngster out on his feet. Daquan saw Chubbs trying to charge Nut, so he threw two quick jabs, landing both square on Chubbs' jaw. On Chubbs' jaw. From there, it was on. Shreveport and New Orleans, led by the Calliope, both rushed in like two armies and clashed under the hot Louisiana sun. Daquan and Nut were stomping D-Lo unconscious when Daquan felt a sharp pain in the shoulder. He looked around just in time to see some cat extracting a homemade ice pick from his flesh, ready to sink it in him again. He caught the boy with a right hook to the stomach that knocked the wind out of him, causing him to double over. Daquan pummeled his opponent's head and face until he fell to the ground and dropped the ice pick. The burning sensation in Daquan's shoulder cried revenge. He bent over to grab the shank. He gripped the tape handle and swung it in an upward arc that caught the boy in the back of his thigh as he tried to scurry away. Ah! He cried out, feeling the sharp steel rip through his skin. Daquan aimed to hit him again until he heard an ear-piercing panic alarm go off. That meant the riot squad was on their way. Everyone tried to duck and run, but suddenly the heavily armored guards were everywhere, letting off tear gas and subduing cats with their thick wooden batons. Daquan gasped for air as the stinging gas covered the yard. In moments, he felt his body go airborne, only to land hard on his stomach. His arms were jerked backward so hard that blood gushed from his shoulder wound, causing him so much pain that he passed out to escape it. He woke up staring at the peeling white ceiling paint of the prison infirmary. The place smelled of stale blood and sanitized urine. The combination of the two aromas turned his stomach. Daquan wanted to rub his face, but when he tried to lift his arms, he found them both handcuffed to the iron bed railing. The movement got the nurse's attention. "Welcome back, Mr. Watson. How you feeling?" the young white lady asked, smiling. "I'm okay." His voice cracked, still a little groggy. "The doctor will be around to see you shortly. Meanwhile, I'll see if I can get you something to eat," she offered. He watched her walk away, her powder blue nurse pants clinging to her petite hips. Hers was the first friendly face he'd seen since he'd been locked up. On top of that, she was the first attractive woman he had seen since leaving the streets. It was his first real contact with human kindness, and the feeling was awkward. It didn't last long, though, because it was replaced with the more familiar feeling of hate as the black sergeant from intake walked in, wearing a smug grin. Daquan has since learned the man's name was Tillman. Well, if it ain't the tough nigger, the sarge quit. "Watson, right?" Daquan didn't respond. "I see whoever got you had a bad aim," he said, referring to the shoulder injury. "Maybe you better tell me who it was before they come back to finish the job. Daquan had to fight the urge to tell him it was his dickhead. Daquan had to fight the urge to tell him it was his dick-sucking mama. But he bit down on his emotions and replied, I don't know. Sergeant Tillman rocked back on his heels, wearing an amused expression. Oh, really? Never seen him before? Didn't see his face, Sarge. But he sure as hell saw yours, Tillman fired back. So unless you give me a name, I'ma put you back out there so we can finish your little black ass off. You understand? That's what you want, tough guy? Daquan turned his head to one side like, yeah, whatever. You little motherfucker, don't know where you at. This my world. I run this. You think you're safe because you're only pulling a year? Nigga, I can make it so you never see the streets again. Never. Just try me, boy. Just try me. He finished his barrage of threats just as the nurse reappeared with Daquan's tray. Tillman stood back up, smiled at the nurse while tipping an imaginary cap, and said, take care of him well. He's state property, remember? Then walked out with Daquan's gaze burning a hole in his back. Daquan was taken to the lockup tier and placed in a small 6x8 cell, just big enough for a bunk, a toilet, and a small desk in the corner. The window was barred and painted black, but over the years, inmates of the cell had scraped away, leaving names and hoods that allowed slivers of sunlight to bleed, that allowed slivers of sunlight to bleed through. Yo, Quan, is that you? Quan, that you? Nut's familiar voice echoed from a lower tier. Yeah, it's me, homie. You alright? You alright, Wody? They say you was bleeding real bad. Yo, it ain't over. Yo, y'all motherfuckers know who I'm talking to. Quan, this shit ain't over. Nut vowed, and a cacophony of voices shouted in reply. Fuck y'all Cali old niggas. Fuck Shreveport. Suck my dick. Daquan sat down on his bunk while the threats and abuse flew through the air, battling in his eardrums. He was ready to go to sleep when he heard, Yo, Quan, you okay, baby? Daquan recognized it was Nate's voice. He was only 2 cells down. Daquan walked over to the bars and replied, I'm cool. Just wish I had a cigarette. He heard the shuffling of shower shoes. Then he heard Nate say to the guards, He heard the shuffling of shower shoes. Then he heard Nate say to the guy in the cell between them, Yo, homie, pass this to my boy in the next cell. The guy mumbled some grudging The guy mumbled some grudging reply, but a moment later, an ashy black hand held out 3 cigarettes and a book of matches to Daquan. Here. Here. Daquan took them and immediately lit one up. He allowed the nicotine to coat his nerves and bring a slight dizz to his head. Appreciate that, Nate. Yeah, I heard you took one for the team, Lil Waldy. You straight? Nate asked with genuine concern in his tone. I'm straight, you heard me? What about you? What about you? Nate chuckled. Shit, nigga, I'm a soldier. So I'm always in solitary, you dig? But they talk about leaving me here till I turn 17 so they can send me to Angola. Daquan blew a steam of smoke. Daquan blew out a stream of smoke. Damn, Wody. I hate that it's like that. We ain't mean to get you fucked up. He apologized. Man, I'm a lifer. I'm gonna do this time wherever. Until God call me home. I just ain't want none of y'all little niggas to get fucked up like me. Nate explained. He took a pull of his cigarette, then added, Little Wally, you could have got killed today. You know that, right? Daquan looked at his shoulder and remembered the face of the boy who stalked him a few inches more, and it could have easily pierced his heart. Nate took his silence as agreement, so he said, Or you could have easily killed somebody today. That's how shit go. So you never know. Like that nigga C, he about to go home. But he ride for the CP3. He could have got fucked up too. I'm schooling you, Lil Wody. Cause it's a time to go hard and a time to chill. I see you got that type of head, but not don't. He's a soldier, but he don't think. That'll get you fucked up, you know? Yeah, but Wody, my boy. We grew. Daquan tried to defend that, but Nate cut him off. I ain't saying don't fuck with your peoples. Nah, I'm saying sometimes you gotta think for you and him, that's all. Like I said, he a sure enough soldier, but plenty of them in here on 6 feet deep. But plenty of them in here are 6 feet deep because they ain't think. Look at me, Nate said. Daquan nodded silently in agreement. So what you gonna do, old boy? What you gonna do about old boy that hit you up? Nate questioned. I don't know, bruh. However it go. And you a puppy, little daddy. Real niggas make it go the way they want. Only weak motherfuckers wait for shit to happen. Remember that. And with that, I'm gonna end it. That was dope. Awesome episode. Okay, save. Around the corner. 1, 2. Poof. Yay. Let me see what's up here. Mad folks came through. All-Star Fania. Big up to the homie right there. We already rocking 3 years knowing each other. Big up to you, Ma. Salute to you and your son. She says, congratulations. Thank you. Pat Master says, TURN. That's my dude right there. And he's down with the RGMC, so salute to you big time, sir. And then we got Toby O. Hey, how are you? I'm currently reading Midnight and listening to your audiobook. Thank you for taking a chance on the channel. And I hope you stick around for more. I got nothing but Midnight going on, you heard? And we got Pat Master saying, good evening to everyone. and 704 Liquor House Talk Network. Ah, yes, you told me about that. Salute to you, my friend. I'm glad you're here. 704 Liquor House Talk Network. Good morning, everyone from Charlotte, North Carolina, and Sherelle Pittman upgraded membership to banned episodes. Folks, let me tell you about banned episodes while I'm at it. Banned episodes are those episodes that can easily get me kicked off of YouTube. Yes, indeed. So, little $5 a month will get you access to those forbidden scripts. So, hit me up, join the channel. That's what you do. You heard me? So, bro, this little fresh air feeling good right now. Woo! Sheesh. All right, then. I got books for sale, books that I've read. So please chip in if you want to chip in for those. You know, holla at me on www.solo.to/RGMC2407 and holla at me in whichever joint and let's talk about it, man. All right? Until I put my little marketplace up, this is what we can do, all right? So hit me up on a DM or whichever joint you find me on. All right, then. Since we're finished with this, let me put that away. Let me open something new. All right, boom. But I need some fresh air because, yo, it's hot in America right now. You heard me? What? I don't mind telling you. The next week or so, the only long-ass heat wave coming. Sheesh. I'm not at all looking forward to it. But, yeah, man. Let me just take a moment. Just one little moment, man. A breather. Let me drink a little water. That's what I ought to do. Boy, was that delicious. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm ready to bust out an episode of The Art of Bounce real quick. So let's do it. All right. Let's see. Where is it? All right. Adam Perry Lang, Akon, Al Gore, Alan Dershowitz, Albert Pinto, Alec Baldwin, Allison Mack, Alyssa Rogers, Anderson Cooper, Andrea Mitrovic, Andres Pastrana, Angelina Jolie, Anthony Kiedis, Anthony Weiner, Barack Obama, Ben Affleck, Bernie Sanders, Beyonce, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Bob Saget, deceased, Bruce Willis, Casey Wasserman, Callum Hudson Odoi, sorry if I mispronounced that, Callum Hudson Odoi, Celine Dion, Charles Barkley, Charlie Sheen, Charlize Theron, Chelsea Handler, Cher, Chris Tucker, Chris Wagner, Chrissy Teigen, Cyndi Lauper, Claire Hazel, Courtney Cox, Courtney Love, Demi Moore, Dan Snyder, David Koch, David Spade, David Yarovesky, Dolores Zarragueta, Donovan Mitchell, Doug Band, Drew Barrymore, Ed Buck, Ed Turtle, Ehud Barak, Ellen DeGeneres, Ellen Spicer, Emmy Taylor, Fleur Perry Lang, Francis X. Suarez, Freya Wissing, Gary Roxburgh. That would be the pilot. George Clooney, Ghislaine Maxwell, Glenn Duggan, Greg Holbert, deceased. Gwen Stefani, Gwendolyn Beck, Hank Collar, pilot. Heather Mann, Heidi Klum, Henry Wazowski, Hillary Clinton, James Franco, James Gunn, Jean-Luc Brunel, deceased. Jean-Michel Gacy, Jeffrey Jones, deceased. Jim Carrey, Jimmy Kimmel, Joe Biden, Joe Pagano, John Cusack, John Legend, John Podesta, John Travolta, Joy Behar, Juan Pablo Molino, Juliette Bryant, Justin Roiland, Justin Trudeau, Kathy Griffin, Katy Perry, Kelly Spam, Kevin Spacey, Kristen Gillibrand. Come on with the sirens. Christy Rogers, deceased. Lady Gaga, Larry Summers, Larry Vyosky, Larry Vasosky, pilot. Laura Z. Wasserman, Lawrence M. Krauss, Linda Pinto, Lisa Summers, Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, Madonna, Mandy Ellison, assistant. Mark Collins, rector. Marina Ambrovic, Mark Epstein, Mark Lloyd, Eminem, Melinda Lutz, Marshall Mathers, otherwise known as Eminem, Melinda Lutz, Meryl Streep, Michelle Obama, Michelle Wolf, Mikel Arteta, Miley Cyrus, Nadine Dorries, Naomi Campbell, Naomi Watts, Natalie Blachon de Perrier, Nicole Junkerman, Olga Kurilenko, Oliver Sacks, Oprah, Orlando Bloom, Paris Hilton, Patton Oswalt, Paul Mellon, Paula Epstein, deceased, Paula Haller, Peter P. Marino, Pharrell Williams, Prince Andrew, Prince Charles, Quentin Tarantino, Rachel Maddow, Rainn Wilson, not him, Ralph Ellison, Ray Barzana, pilot, Ricardo Legarreta Vilches, Rihanna, Rita Wilson, Rob Reiner, Robert De Niro, Robert Downey Jr., Rodney E. Slater, Ronald Burke, Rudy Gobert, Sander Berger, Sarah Kellen, assistant, Sarah Silverman, Seth Green, Jay-Z, Sean Carter, otherwise known as Jay-Z, Shelley Harrison, Shelley Lewis, Sophie Biddle Hakim, Sophie Trudeau, Stephen Collins, Stephen Colbert, Steven Spielberg, Steven Tyler, Svetlana Gazunova, Tiala Davies, Tiffany Gramza, Tom Hanks, Tom Pritzker, Tyler Grasham, deceased, Victor Salva, Wanda Sykes, Whoopi Goldberg. And that is the list, allegedly. I won't go any further than that. I'll just tune into this thing that I found in the RGMC 2407 Facebook group. Let's see here. This was sent by a Michelle Allswede. No. This was sent by Michelle. I'll redact the last name. Now, like I said before, and I will say again, this is all allegedly. Like my boys over at Super Trife Low Life, yeah, pay attention, y'all, right? My people's over there, Chip Low, huh? And the Watchtower. Tune into them boys. And then we got, you know, like my guys, Super Trife Low Life, right? Allegedly. My man Chip Low loves saying that. But big up to Chip Low and the Watchtower and the rest of the guys on there that's keeping that channel afloat. Go check them out whenever you will. Super Trife Low Life. Mwah. Shout out to my guys over there, 2 L's. But according to Michelle, she dropped this at the RGMC 2407 Facebook group. When are you people gonna stop idolizing Hollywood? Let's start back in 1919. Charlie Chaplin, who would become one of the most famous and celebrated movie stars of all time, was 29 when he married 16-year-old aspiring actress Mildred Harris. Their marriage only lasted 2 years. In 1924, Chaplin repeated the same pattern with another 16-year-old, Lita Gray. He met Lita when she was just 6 and began taking her on dates around the age of 12. 1954, Sam Cooke meets a 12-year-old Aretha Franklin and brings her to his hotel room. Before her father interrupted, Aretha said the conversation took another turn, quote unquote. In 1957, 23-year-old Jerry Lee Lewis married his cousin, 13-year-old, name redacted. Okay, got it. Also in 1957, 16-year-old Anna Mae Bullock met 24-year-old Ike Turner. He quickly took her into his band, helped her make her a star, and began to treat the newly Christianed Tina as if he owned her. They married 6 years later. Tina once wrote that she was afraid not to accept his proposal. In 1959, Elvis Presley met his future wife. He was 25 and she was 14. They stayed in touch via phone and letters for the next 2.5 years. At the time, Elvis took her on a drug romp to Vegas, followed by moving her into his Graceland mansion. They didn't marry until 1967, while both parties trained. While both parties claimed that Priscilla was a virgin on her wedding night, biographer Susan Finstad makes a strong case that this could not be true. Priscilla herself has admitted that she and Elvis slept in the same bed and that Elvis taught her other ways to please. What the hell? Oh, come on now. That part was redacted for whatever reason. Chuck Berry was arrested and found guilty of transporting an underage girl across state lines for immoral purposes, spending 2 years in jail in 1960. In 1969, Sable Starr, queen of the so-called baby groupies, had a brief relationship with Iggy Pop. She was 13. He later wrote a song about it. Starr had sexual relationships with many other band members, including encounters with including encounters with David Bowie, Mick Jagger, and Rod Stewart. It's 1972 and rock stars are still having sex with little girls and everyone knows it, but no one does anything about it. Lori Maddox tells of losing her virginity at age 14 to David Bowie. She went on to start dating Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page that same year. That same year, a relationship that began when Page's manager kidnapped her and brought her to Jimmy's hotel room. Page kept Lori essentially locked up in his house for most of their 18 months together. The baby groupie also reports a sexual relationship with Mick Jagger when she was just 17. In 1973, married singer Marvin Gaye met and pursued 17-year-old Janice Hunter. He wrote Let's Get It On as a tribute to his lust for her. Marvin took his teen date to dinner shortly after they met, where he bribed the waiter to bring her alcohol, then had sex with her later that night. They had a baby by the time she was 18 and married in 1977. The marriage lasted just 3 years. In 1975, Steven Tyler purchased the guardianship of a 16-year-old girl, Julia Holcomb, from her mother. Hold on. Damn, I thought these trains would stop already. What damn time is it? Jesus. In 1975, Steven Tyler purchased the guardianship of a 16-year-old girl, Julia Holcomb, from her mother when he was 27 so that he could legally take her with him. Damn trains. In 1975, Steven Tyler purchased the guardianship of a 16-year-old girl, Julia Holcomb, from her mother when he was 27 so that he could legally take her with him across state lines while he was on tour. In 1978, Ted Nugent also purchases the guardianship of a teenager from her parents. He was 30. Pele Massa was 17. Years later, Ted reportedly received oral sex from a 12-year-old girl called Courtney Love. March 10th, 1977, one of the most well-known cases, director Roman Polanski drugs and rapes 13-year-old Samantha Gailey, allowed to plead guilty to a lesser charge. Polanski nevertheless fled to France before sentencing and remains exiled from the United States. He had not been exiled, however, from Hollywood and continues to make movies and win awards to this day. Eagles drummer. Damn, these trains. Eagles drummer and vocalist Don Henley was arrested in 1980 in Los Angeles after paramedics were called to his home to save a naked 16-year-old girl who was overdosing on cocaine and Quaaludes. Colored over as a grand romance and a decades-long relationship, Celine Dion was 12 years old when 38-year-old Renee Renee Angelo became her manager. They went public. They went public with their relationship when she was 19. In 1984, Rolling Stones bassist Bill Wyman started dating Mandy Smith. She was 13, although they did not marry until she was 18. Mandy says she was 14 when they first had sex. Mr. Wyman has never been investigated, much less prosecuted. Red Hot Chili Peppers lead Anthony Kiedis readily admits to having sex with a 14-year-old girl when he was 23. According to him, once he confirmed her age, he had sex with her again, quote unquote. In 1986, the 24-year-old musician began dating 16-year-old Lone Sky. In 1990, 16-year-old Maddie Garcia, 16-year-old Maddie Garcia's mother sent a video of her belly dancing to Prince. He arranged to meet her, confirmed she was 16, and a year later moved her into his house. When she was 19, he initiated a sexual relationship by informing her it was time to go on birth control. They married when she was 22 and he was 37. Before Maddie, Prince met Anna Fantastic when she was 15. At 17, she moved into his compound where they had a 2-year-long relationship. In 1991, 32-year-old director Luc Besson met and eventually married model Maïwenn Lebesco when she was 15. Their relationship inspired the movie Léon, the Professional, 1994, which followed an emotional relationship between an adult man and a young girl. In 1993, Jerry Seinfeld picked up a high school student in the public park. He was 39 and she was 17. He and Shoshana Lonstein dated for 4 years through her college years. Also in 1993, MC Ren of NWA was accused of raping and impregnating a 16-year-old girl in the group's tour bus. The case never went to trial. However, a paternity test showed that he was the father of the girl's baby. Noted pedophile R. Kelly secretly married R&B singer Aaliyah. In 1994 when she was 15 and he was 27. They met when she was 12 and he later helped write and produce her first album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. In 1995, teen star Brandy, age 16, started dating 21-year-old Boyz II Men Wanya Morris. It was too stressful for the couple, and they broke up soon after. In 1997, Woody Allen should have become notorious when he married his de facto stepdaughter. Though she was 21 at the time of the wedding, the two met when she was 8. No matter the spin, the facts are stark. This wasn't the only time Allen dated a much younger woman. Actress Baby Christina Engelhardt began a years-long love affair with Allen when she was 16 and he was 41. When Allen was 42, he romanced 17-year-old actress and high school senior Stacey Nelkin. It's the early mid-2000s, and that 70s show actor Wilder Valderrama continues to date teenage girls in an effort to deny he is now over 30. He dated 16-year-old Mandy Moore despite being 4 years her senior. At age 24, Valderrama dated 17-year-old Lindsay Lohan. Then later on to date Demi Lovato. In 2001, Fast and Furious star Paul Walker, 28 at the time, was dating 16-year-old Aubriana Atwell. This was not Paul's last time to date a teenager. His girlfriend at the time of his death, Jasmine Pilchard Gosnell, was 23 to his 40. They met when she was 16. Back in 2004, 26-year-old Joel Madden and Hilary Duff did the familiar dance of being just friends, quote unquote, until her 18th birthday in 2006. When asked about whether she was intimate with Madden or not in a 2015 interview with Cosmopolitan, Duff stated, "I had a 26-year-old boyfriend, so everyone can make up their own assumptions about what I was doing." In 2005, clean-cut TV heartthrob Chad Michael Murray begins dating a girl in high school. They get engaged when she turns 18, and Murray calls her a little sweetheart and says they have been together for a while, quote unquote. Similarly, in 2006, co-stars Hayden Panettiere and Milo Ventimiglia began dating. She was 17. He was 12 years her senior. Actor Doug Hutchison married 16-year-old Courtney Stodden in 2011 when he was 51 years old. The dysfunctional pair became famous as reality stars, with Courtney undergoing extensive plastic surgery to maintain her image. Rapper Tyga and Kylie Jenner began, quote unquote, hanging out an awful lot beginning in 2014 when she was 16 and he was 24. They dated on and off after that, though they became a lot more openly on her 18th birthday in 2016. In late 2018, 44-year-old Leonardo DiCaprio publicly reveals that he's dating 21-year-old model Camila Morrone. It's not the age gap that puts Leo on our list. It's the fact that he's known Camila since she was 11. 2018, 14-year-old Millie Bobby Brown innocently revealed that rapper Drake, age 31, has been close friends with her for the last year, giving her advice about boys. He texts her, "I miss you." This is the same Drake who has more than once skated around that just friends until she turns 18 line, most recently with 18-year-old model Bella Harris. Guys, this isn't a friendship. This is grooming. No one will stop it. They'll date. He'll have sex with her probably in a couple of years. No one will care because he's a man and he's a star. No one will care unless we start making people care. Make them care. No free passes, no second chances. A ruined career is the least they deserve. It's not cute. This is not okay. And with that, I'm going to stop the tape. Boom. Let me see here. All right. So, back on with the fan, yo. Woo. I'm about to turn this AC on. So, yo, let's go back. Right? Pretty soon I got merch coming up. Got this shirt right here, right? Y'all see it? Long sleeve shirt, $50. If y'all interested, holla at your boy in a few, right? And then I got my man Marlon Payne. He's making he's making joints like this, right? And this is dope, bro. This is look at my grill. Look at me. I'm on a t-shirt. What? How cool is that? Just about as cool as this, huh? Look at this old girl. Isn't she pretty? Isn't she sexy? Look at her, look at her, look at her. Huh? It's to commemorate my birthday coming up soon. To commemorate my 10,000 subscribers. That's about to happen because my subscriber count, legit. I'd like to thank you all for that. I appreciate you all. Like cooked food, you heard me? For real, for real. Aren't you pretty? Aren't you pretty as hell? All right then. Putting everything away now. Okay? And, well, you know I appreciate y'all, right? Like, you know, y'all keep things sexy for me. And I'm very, very appreciative of that. Check out all of my other Ralph Reed's episodes. And also, check out The Art of Bounce. It's on Spotify. It's on Amazon Music. Go check it out, bro. And also, like I said before, check out my people, Super Trife Low Life, Lady J Gould. All right? You already know Pat Master in the house. You know what I'm saying? Check out my peoples over at the Ranchers Union and Super Trife Low Life. I think I already said that 1,000 times. Check them out. Check out my guys over at Force Fed Digital. We got a whole family of folks over there. Yeah, y'all. I guarantee y'all will have some kind of fun over there. But in the meantime, I gotta get the hell out of here. All right? So with those things being said, folks, tell a friend to tune in to TURN, the United Ronin Networks. Stay sexy. It's becoming of you. All right? Let me say that again, because that's not what I say. I'll be saying, stay sexy. It becomes you. Take care, folks.